Welcome back to, I guess we're calling this Biomes because I don't have a better title for it, but welcome back to Biomes. This week we're talking about Death Valley. So Death Valley is an area within the Mojave Desert in the state of California in the United States. Also, there's that stupid little triangle that's in Nevada, but it's pretty much just in California. Death Valley in the summer is considered to be the hottest place on Earth, with a record of it being 57 degrees Celsius, or 134 degrees Fahrenheit, which I guess we should use Fahrenheit because it is in the United States. In addition to being really fucking hot, it's also really fucking dry, with an average of like 2.2 inches of rainfall per year, which is not very much. Despite this being a not very appealing place to live, there are still lots of plants and animals that do thrive there. So plants that typically live in Death Valley include this bush, the creosote bush. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it is considered to be one of, if not the most drought and heat tolerant plants in the United States, which makes sense because it lives in fucking Death Valley. And while the big, tall, like, stereotypical desert plant, the saguaro cactus, is not found in Death Valley as far as I'm aware, there are a bunch of smaller and even more drought and heat-resistant cactus, such as the barrel cactus, or this, the cholla. And much like pretty much every other cactus, they're not very pleasant to touch. They're very spiky, and those spikes do tend to come off and stay in the skin. As for the animals that frequent Death Valley, there are the kind of stereotypical, I guess, desert animals, such as the coyote, which, while being the same species as, like, more northern forest coyotes, they do have different adaptations, so they are the same species, but they're just adapted to different environments, so less thick winter coats and more heat-resistant, etc. And, of course, we could not mention the coyote without mentioning the roadrunner, which apparently people are frequently surprised to learn is actually a real thing and was not made up for the Looney Tunes cartoons. So, roadrunners, they are real things. They are beautiful and majestic, of course, and they are frequently prey of the coyotes, so imagine that however you so choose. Some other residents of Death Valley include reptiles, like this chuckwallow lizard, which is a very interesting little guy, as well as desert tortoises, which are actually pretty rare to see. They don't tend to come out very often. As well as some snakes, like this sidewinder, which is a species of viper and is therefore very venomous, and so you kind of want to avoid these. But sidewinders specifically are known for the very distinct way that they move, in which you can probably guess by the name Sidewinder. Instead of going, like, forwards like a regular snake, they do use that undulating motion, but they go sideways instead of forwards. And so they got the name Sidewinder, and they do create very interesting and distinct patterns in the sand, so you know exactly where the Sidewinder was going, and that it is a Sidewinder. I'm a big fan of these guys and may do a entirely separate video talking about them. But they are venomous, so you do want to keep your distance from them. Another venomous species found in the Death Valley is the black widow spider, and while not usually fatal, you definitely do not want to be bit by them because it's not a very pleasant experience and can potentially be fatal if untreated or if there's an allergic reaction. And another spider, while not super dangerous, there are tarantulas in the Death Valley. There are actually two species of tarantula in the Death Valley. There's the desert tarantula, which this one is, but there's also the Arizona blonde tarantula, even though it's not in Arizona, technically. Fun fact about me and tarantulas, though. When I was younger, my family would go down, visit some relatives in Utah quite often. And one time my uncle, when we were pulled over at a gas station, he found a baby tarantula on the ground, and my cousin wanted it for a pet, so he put it in a to-go container, a fast food container, and I was probably 9 or 10 at the time, but I was like, this spider is absolutely going to escape. And my uncle and my parents were like, oh no, it's fine, it can't get out of the fast food container. And what happened? So, there were quite a few of us packed in my mother's van, way more than technically allowed. There was me, my aunt, my uncle, a bunch of my cousins, and my little sister. And my little sister at that time was probably 6 or 7, and was very afraid of spiders. So the spider escapes, of course, and it was found directly on her boot. And so everyone was freaking out. We finally managed to get the spider, put it outside, unharmed, but I was like, I told you so, you should have just let me hold the container. Anyways, off topic. There are also cougars, or mountain lions, or pumas, or whatever you want to call them, in Death Valley. They prey on things like the coyotes, as well as the desert bighorn sheep, which can also be found in the mountains of Death Valley. We have this very cute little guy, the kit fox, which lives there and eats things such as scorpions, lizards, as well as mice and kangaroo rats, which are also found there, and I think they are very cute. I am a big fan of kangaroo rats. It is also surprisingly home to a few fish, despite being in a desert, such as our good friends here, the devil's hole pupfish, among a variety of other pupfish species, but I already made a video about devil's hole and their endemic pupfish, so go check that out. Death Valley is a national park, so you can go there and visit it, which is another thing on my bucket list, but you do have to be aware when you do visit it. It is very easy to get lost, and people have died there, quite a few actually. And so it is best to stick to guided tours and designated tourist areas, because this is a very extreme environment, and if you get lost, it is very difficult for you to be found in time before you die of dehydration because it's in a fucking desert. That being said, I would absolutely love to go here.